Am I the a-hole for telling my sister there's a reason her kids chose to live with her dad? I, 32 female, have a 14-year-old daughter, Jess. Her father, my husband, died in an accident when she was young, so it's been just the two of us for a long time. As a result, we are very close, and she's a lot more open to me than most kids are with their parents. Around a week ago, she asked me if I could take her to the movies on a date with a guy in her class. I know the guy distantly because they've done some extracurriculars together, and I was thrilled he was my daughter's first boyfriend. I took them a few days ago and they ended up hanging at our house for a bit afterwards. He was extremely polite, and maybe it's just the mom inside me, but I couldn't be happier for her. I went to my older sister's house for a coffee earlier this morning. For backstory, my sister has two teenagers, 16 and 17, who live almost full-time with their dad. They had a very messy divorce around 3 years ago, and both kids choose to live with their dad. The reason for this was because my sister was extremely overbearing on them. She was the kind of mom who believed kids should have no privacy, and she should run their lives until they were adults. I know she had many arguments with them because she would take away their doors, not let them hang out with friends, search through their phones every night, etc. This was the primary reason for her divorce, although she won't admit that. While I love her, as someone who grew up with little privacy, I fully understand why her kids don't want to live with her. My daughter came up in conversation and so brought up her first date. When I explained how it went, my sister laughed and told me that I must be joking. When she realized I was serious, she told me I was a terrible mother for letting my daughter walk all over me and not setting boundaries. She ranted on for a while, but she basically said that 14-year-olds are incapable of going out themselves, and that I was being lazy and neglectful by allowing her to do that. She also said I would never allow my kids to do that. So I replied by saying, "That's exactly why your kids live with their dad." She got very quiet and then told me to leave. When I got home, I started thinking more about what I said, and while at the time I thought I was simply telling her what she needed to hear, now I'm wondering if I crossed the line. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. A hit dog hollers. She was only upset by what you said because deep down she knows is the truth and doesn't want to admit it to herself or anyone else. And she had no problem telling Opie what a bad mom she is. Go figure. All the worst people can dish it out but can't take anything. They just crumble under the weight of their own BS. Amen. Opie's sister could have had a better relationship with her kids if she had eased up. And honestly, probably still could if she would make amends. Instead, she's making herself the victim while judging others for actually trying to care about their kids and have a more open relationship. Not stay home. Your sister thinks holding boundaries is the same thing as making demands, and she'll eventually learn that her children aren't accessories to treat as she wishes without consequence. This right here. Opie's sister emulated their parents, I'm assuming, and thought, it worked fine for me, so it should work for my kids too. But she's too stubborn to admit that was the key reason for the divorce. While it was a low blow, I say Opie wasn't the a-hole for saying it. Sis needs a reality check. Was it a low blow though? The sister had been crapping in Opie's parenting for a while. Also, why would you want to control the lives of your children instead of guiding them to adulthood? Learning about responsibilities and staying safe? I never understood those controlling parents you see so often on the sub. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I'd rather spend my vacation at the beach than sleep in her living room? I have been living abroad for almost 2 years, and I haven't visited home since I moved away. Next year, I will have the opportunity to take a month off work with a paid round-trip flight to visit home. This is part of my job's bonus structure. This trip wouldn't be until the late spring at the earliest, but I decided to talk to my family about it now, because I know my parents like to plan trips every year in the spring and summer. My parents live in a 4-bedroom house, which are currently used as a master suite, a guest room, and 2 offices. My dad works from home and my mom's job is hybrid, so hers is also a craft room. My 28-year-old brother has been living in the guest room since last fall when his ex-girlfriend dumped him and kicked him out. He is saving money for a down payment on a house, and this is why they do not charge him rent to live there. When I asked my mom if I would be able to stay with them for the month I have off, she told me I would be more than welcome to crash on an air mattress in the living room, but she wouldn't be inconveniencing my brother just for me. I was really confused by this because I hadn't even mentioned my brother. She then told me that since my brother also works from home, he's been using her office to work in addition to the guest room, and that means I wouldn't be able to use her office for an air mattress. For the record, The room he sleeps in has a nice handmade desk built into one of the corners that I guess he uses for a large flat screen. I asked her if it was realistic to assume my brother would even still be there 8 months from now, considering he's supposedly saving for a house. She said he doesn't currently make enough to afford a house in their town. It isn't willing to consider a neighboring town, which is what my other 2 siblings did when they bought their houses. So he's living there indefinitely. I was annoyed. My brother is the youngest, and she has a history of prioritizing whatever he wants over the needs and desires of her other 3 children. And I told her I wouldn't be sleeping on the floor of an open room for a month. I said if I wasn't going to be paying for an Airbnb, I'd rather go to the beach. She was offended that I'd go somewhere else and told me they'd all really like to see me. I told her if she really wanted to see me, she'd put a little more effort into making sure I was comfortable while I was there. The call ended poorly. This was a few weeks ago and I haven't responded. When I explained what happened to my older brother, he agreed that mom is being a bit unreasonable, but my sister told me I was acting entitled, that I should be grateful they'd let me stay at all. So I told my sister I'm just going to rent an Airbnb at the beach and they can come see me if they want. Am I the a-hole for refusing to stay with them if I have to sleep on the living room floor? Not the a-hole. It's not like you are going for a week. You're going for a month, and it's insane to be upset that you're not willing to crash in the living room with zero privacy. Seriously, she has no problem making Opie sleep on an air mattress on the living room floor for an entire month, but mommy won't tell her son to work in his own room while she's there so she can sleep in the office? Not the a-hole. Who the heck wants to sleep on an air mattress for a month and in the living room? Your mom is being very unreasonable and unduly playing favorites. Go to the beach. I'd rather go to the beach anyway. And when they come visit her, they can bring the air mattress and sleep in her living room. Not the a-hole. Your mom is the real villain here. As families morph over time, bedrooms change, etc., as you see. Your parents are no longer keeping room for everyone. It is not unreasonable for them to have allowed your brother to live there for the time being. Where she really goes off the rails is how she handles this. She should have simply said that she feels bad because the house is only set up for one guest at a time, and they are currently supporting the brother for the reasons given. Presumably the 2 of you can't share the guest room somehow. If it were me, I would have taken great pains to make you feel welcome and loved, even while explaining the challenges. She doesn't seem to have even tried. You unfortunately showed your frustration with a biting response. You're not the a-hole, but if you could have kept calm and understood the dilemma beforehand, it would have gone better. If I were your parents, I probably would have offered to help pay for a B&B just because I felt bad that you couldn't stay with us. Hope you can work out a relationship going forward. I didn't mention this in the post because I didn't think it was relevant, but since moving out, I have noticed that they treated my moving out differently from my other siblings. They retained all of their rooms for a few months before making changes after they moved out, but they started repainting my room an hour after they got back from dropping me off the airport. I lived with them as an adult to save money and take grad classes, and they charged me rent and utilities that they don't charge my brother. I think this whole situation has just hammered in that my mom doesn't value me the same way she values my other siblings. It's been weeks, and she hasn't even noticed I haven't been in contact. I usually call at least once a week. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my son that being a nerd doesn't mean that he's superior to anyone, especially his little sister? I have 2 kids, Jake and Jamie. Jake is 16 male and big into the media I like is my entire personality. And I'm better than you because I like those things. It has grown up to be very judgmental, cold, and mean. We honestly do not know how this happened, but his nasty attitude comes out the most at his little sister. Jamie is 14 female and is a very bubbly, friendly girl. She makes friends with everyone everywhere she goes, and she is also kind of a mini trendsetter for her school. She started selling homemade scrunchies at school and it took off. Jake makes fun of her all the time for being vapid, girly, etc. So my husband talked to him about misogyny because we were both shocked on where that came from. We thought the issue was handled and he started to be nicer to Jamie. Until the last week of school, Jamie came home from school having won an award for the scrunchie business. We were proud of her and had tacos, her favorite, for dinner. Mind you, if Jake did something like that, we'd do the same. We love to celebrate their successes. Well, Jake was displeased at dinner and interrupted to talk about his video game accomplishments. We were all very polite and listened and congratulated him. He just looked at his sister and was like, "And I did that by myself," without having to make everyone else hear about it all the time and dressing up like a pick-me to get everyone's attention. I just looked at my husband, then Jake, and said, "Being a nerd doesn't make you superior to anyone in this family, Jake. You can like video games and still be a nice person to your family, especially your little sister. Quit acting like a little snot." He got red in the face and took his little tantrum upstairs to his room. Since then, he's barely talked to anyone and just holes up in his room playing games all day. My husband did tell me that I shouldn't have said that, because it's going to pit them against each other more, even though Jamie doesn't get why her brother treats her like this. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Cut the internet off and see how much he can do by himself then. Perfect idea. And let us know if you do that in an update. Kid sounds like a nice guy in the making. I recommend some therapy, but also try to open a dialogue with him to figure out where all this anger towards anything feminine comes from. I think there might actually be some kind of secret here. Not stay home. A lot of younger people who play a lot of video games are subject to others online. Men who play video games online kind of tend to be misogynistic and judge feminine things. He could be picking it up through the gaming. Either way, not stay home. Definitely find out why it's like this and post an update. The gaming community can be full of nasty, juvenile, and toxic people. How involved are you guys in monitoring what he plays, who he is talking to, etc.? Having seen his attitude, his beliefs, and his actions towards his sister, you as his parents don't get to throw your hands up and shake your heads. Get him in therapy or with a mentor, or start having one-on-one time with him to break down these views. They need to be addressed now, else you are going to have a grown man with nasty ideas and attitudes in the world. Step up as parents. Calling him a nerd was stupid and unhelpful. That's not accurate or even vaguely a lesson or hard truth. And surely a one-off remark is not enough. Do more, do better, get more involved. Your son needs you guys now. Step up before it's too late. Seriously, this is exactly what my now 40-year-old brother was like growing up. And it was indulged. We now all have to deal with a barely employed, condescending a-hole who still talks about his video game accomplishments at dinner and breaks down in tantrums regularly. I wish my mom had the balls to call him a mean nerd back then, lol. Last story. Am I the a-hole for threatening to call the cops on my parents and calling my dad a human trash can after what they did to my sister? This entire thing honestly sounds like some type of soap opera and caused people a lot of grief, so I'd like third-party opinions. I, 17 female, have a half-sister on my dad's side, Jasmine, 27 female. Me and Jasmine aren't super duper close, but she's very nice. We do keep in touch and just vent about life. Dad isn't very understanding towards Jasmine. I don't really know how to put it, but from what I've seen and heard, he's very pushy towards her and almost always makes some remark about how she's not doing enough. Mom doesn't like her much and says that she doesn't respect them. Jasmine has a friend, John, early/mid-30s male. I put quotation marks because it's obvious she and John are a lot more than friends, and she has told me before that she loves him, but she refers to him as a friend in front of mom and dad, although they also suspect otherwise. John lives in a neighboring state to us. Jasmine was going to catch a train there and meet him at a station. Long story short, and from the details I heard, mom got hold of Jasmine's phone when she came over at some point and blocked John's number. She has her Gmail on her phone, which mom also blocked John's email from. Jasmine didn't realize until way later. This caused a huge misunderstanding between them. She basically went to the station, waited for hours, and he didn't show up. Jasmine was in a really bad state and couldn't believe my parents could pull something like that. So I asked them, and mom said she and dad thought this needed to be done for her own good. I shouted at them, threatening to call the cops if they don't apologize to Jasmine and try to make things right. Side note, I don't know if the cops would do anything in this case or if they're relevant. I just said it in the moment. Dad said I was butting into adult matters and I was too young to understand. I said I understood enough and called him a human trash can. They said I need to mind my mouth and apologize to them, which I refused to. Mom said how she can't believe I would act like this, and I've picked up on Jasmine's tendencies. My uncle came over the other day and I heard Dad crying to him about how he's so hurt by his daughter. Me. I think what I said was justified, but there's a quite few people telling me I'm in the wrong. So did I go too far with my outburst? Am I the a-hole? Butting into adult matters. Mom said after stealing her adult daughter's phone to block the number and email of a man she is with. It's not even the mom's daughter, it's her stepdaughter. Not the a-hole. But OP, stay close to your half-sister. You've seen what your parents are capable of, and I have a feeling they're going to do this stuff to you too. Not Daeho. Blocking John from Jasmine's phone was vile and awful. The way the world is today, Jasmine could have been robbed or abducted waiting around a train station for hours. Yes, this was part of my reasoning too. I just felt really bad for her. Despite my parents' thoughts, she really is a very kind person and sister. Your mom could be jealous of Jasmine knowing your dad had another life before she came along. If anything, your parents are like jealous teenage girls that are spoiled. Not Daeho. Your parents shouldn't have gone through her phone. Why hasn't she said anything to them? Or has she? She did. They had a whole massive argument. And Dad has said that if she listened and didn't try to argue all the time, they wouldn't have had to do this or something. I don't really know the full details. That's dumb. If she didn't listen like they're saying, it still doesn't give them the right to go through her phone. And she's an adult, so that's invading her privacy. It's still invading privacy of a minor, but saying that as an adult she can do what she wants. It's not like she was hurting anyone by meeting him, so what even is the problem?